So till now, we have learned about like databases, tables. After that, we have learned about data types. Then we have learned about constraints. Now today we'll actually solve all these things practically. So we'll start to create a database, the first step, and we'll move towards inserting records inside a table. So first thing is, first we will create a database. So all of you know that if you want to create a database, you have to write create database and the database name. So I will give it a database name as class 3. So this is my first step in SQL. I will create a database. Why I have used semicolon here? Because I'm telling my machine or I'm telling my compiler that I am ending this line here. So semicolon is just like a full stop. If you are ending it maybe at any point of time, you have to put a semicolon. So I will try to run it. So it is showing me that class 3 already exists, which means I have some point of time previously, I have created a database named as class 3. So all of you know that if we already have a database with the same name, without actually deleting the previous one, we cannot create the new one. So I will try to give it a different name. So I will give it a name as SQL class 3. And let's execute it. Now it's showing you command completed successfully, which means that this SQL class 3 database has been created in your Microsoft SQL Server. So this is your Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. And in the backend on the server where all this data is getting stored is Microsoft SQL Server. So now in this server, this database has been created. If you click on databases, you will see SQL class 3 here. See, SQL class 3 is here. Now, after creating this database, you have to use this database. So I will write use SQL class 3. Now, why I'm using my SQL class 3? Because I want to be very sure that all the things that I'm going to do forward must be saved inside my SQL class 3 database only. So I will use my SQL class 3 database. Now let's move towards the third step. So my third step is I will try to create the tables because now I have my database. Now I have to create some sort of tables inside my database. So if you want to create a table inside a database, you will write create table, and then the name of your table. So I will start with the table name as students. And then you have to put a open and close parenthesis. Now, we'll try to drop columns inside the table. So the table name is students. Now what we will do is we will drop some columns inside the table. So first column is name. Now tell me, if I want to store a name, what will be the data type that I have to use? Varchar. And inside varchar, I will drop the limit of characters it can take. So right now for this time, I will drop 20 here. So my name column will take values of names which have only 20 characters. Now you just have to put a comma and you will come down. So firstly, I'm going to make a normal table. And secondly, I will try to make a table with the help of constraints as well. Now the second column is like subject. So tell me, for subject, which data type is required? Again, subject is also a kind of a string, like a name, alphabetical value, like math, science, data analytics. All these things are alphabetical values. So what we will do is we will again make it with varchar. Now we'll make our third column. The third column will be age. And tell me which data type is responsible for age. If you want to have an age value, then what data type you will take? So you will take int data type. You can take varchar as well, but try to take int here. Don't worry. So you will take your int data type. After this, after age, I want to drop one more column, which is student ID. Now in student ID, tell me what will be the data type for student ID? So student ID can be in int also, student ID can be in varchar also. It's up to you. But I don't want to make any sort of calculations with my student ID. So I will try to make my student ID in varchar. I told you, if you don't want to make any calculation kind of thing, tries to store the things in the varchar format. You can save it in int also. It's okay, but I will suggest you to store it in varchar. And after like some of the classes, when we will move toward advanced lectures, I will tell you like why, when we have to use it in int and when we have to use it in varchar. Right now, let's take a student ID in varchar. So now this is my table students, and there are 4 columns inside my table: name, subject, age, student ID. What I will do now is I will drag the whole create table query and I will try to execute. Now it's showing me that command completed successfully, which means my students table is created now. My students table is created now. Now, if I want to check my students table, see, in Microsoft SQL Server and in MySQL Workbench also, it's not required to end every time a SQL query with a semicolon. See, if you are using a semicolon, it's fine. It's fine here. Like if you will do it something like this, it's fine. Semicolon is fine. It shows you that your thing is completed. But for example, if I am running this query while dragging it. So if you are running any query while dragging it, at the same point of time, compiler will automatically know that you are going to run this much statement only. Then you don't need a semicolon. It's advised to write a query and end it with semicolon. But if you are dragging a query and if you are telling the compiler that I only want to run this much query, then semicolon is not required. But for example, after this query, this query was there. Select star from students. And what this star means, what this asterisk means. So see, whenever you are writing select star from any table name, whenever you are writing select star from any table name, then it means that all the things, all the rows, all the columns that are the part of table will come here. So select star means basically selecting everything from the table. So if you are writing select star from table, it will give you each and every record from the table. So suppose this is my complete query. Suppose this is my complete query, this much. Now these are two different statements. These are two different statements. So now if you want to run both of the statements together, then you need a semicolon here to tell the compiler that this is a separate statement and this is a separate statement. But if you are dragging this much statement only, and if you are executing it, then the compiler will already know that you want to run this much only. So this is basically dragging it. I drag this much statement and I'm executing it, which means that only this much statement will be running. I hope it's clear to you. So this is the difference between using semicolon or not. So if you will not use semicolon here, and if you will try to run this much query, it will not work because it will include this query to this query, which is not correct. So if there are two different statements and you want to run both of the statements together at the same point of time, you will use semicolon here. Okay. So let's move to the next topic. So right now we have created our table. We have actually created our table. And now we will check what is there inside my table that I have created. So I will write select a star from students. So whenever you are writing select a star from a student, it basically gives you each and every record from the table. So let's write select a star from a student. See what it's giving you. It's giving you name, subject, age, and student ID, which means your table has been created and there are 4 columns in your table. But right till now, you have only created your table. You have not actually dropped the records inside the table. That's why your table is empty and you are getting nothing. After varchar, we are using 20. So after int, any space number required or not? See, if you are using int and you are not providing any any limit kind of thing, then int will work till maximum memory that it has, which is 217 million approx. Like minus 217 million to plus 217 million. You can put any number in that range. But with int, it's not required to drop a memory kind of thing, like 20, 30 or anything. Okay. So now this much is clear. Now what we will do is we will try to insert some records inside our table. So our table is done. We have a table with the student's name. Now we'll try to insert some records in my student's table. So if you want to insert some records in a table, you have to write insert into, and after writing insert into, you will try to write your table name. So I will write my table name here. Insert into students. Like I want to insert data into students table. And after that, I will put a open and close parenthesis. And in this parenthesis, I will try to pass all my columns. Name, subject, student ID, and age. So, and one more thing, why this subject and why this name is coming in blue? Like why this is coming in a blue way? Like why there is a blue text here? Because this name and subject is already a part of SQL. It's already a part of Microsoft SQL Server. That's why it's appearing in blue. They have their own functions. But if you are creating them like this, they will react like a column name only. So now you have written insert into students and you have given all your 4 columns here. Now, after giving this all 4 columns, you have to write values. So you have told that you want to store some information in your students table. You have given the columns in which you want to store the information. Now you have to give the information only, and that you will give with the help of values. So I will give my first value. So tell me, what is the first thing in this parenthesis? Name. So firstly, I will put my name. So name is in varchar. So anything, if there is anything in char or varchar or anything in an alphabetical manner, you have to store it inside inverted commas. So I will write Durgesh Yadav. After that, second thing that comes in this sequence is subject. So I will write a subject, data analytics. Now, the third thing that comes into the picture is student ID. So student ID is ABC10. 001. And after that, I have my age here. So I will put age as 25. And name age is in integer. So no need to put age in inverted commas. Age, you can put it like this only. And let's try to execute it. It is showing you one row affected, which means now in your table, there is a row here. So now in your table, there is a row. So now if you are writing select a star from students, it will give you each and everything that is there in students table. So there is one record, Durgesh Yadav, Data Analytics, 25, and this is my student ID. See, I told you in Microsoft SQL Server, if you are dragging something and if you are running something, it is not required. Semicolon is not required. And Microsoft SQL Server, you don't need semicolon, but it's a good practice. If you are writing, just understand, if you are writing a query and after the end of the query, if you are using a semicolon, then it's a good habit. See, in Microsoft SQL Server, it's not required if you are dragging and running the query. See, for insert also, if you will write a semicolon here, it's a good thing. In MySQL, if you will not put a semicolon here, and if you will write a query, for example, if you will write a query, any query like select star from ABC, just an example, you will write a query and you will not put a semicolon here. It will give you an error. Like you will see a red mark here if you will do something like this in MySQL Workbench. So in MySQL Workbench, you have to put a semicolon here. Then you can start with the new query. But in SQL Server, it's fine. Now you have inserted a record in a table. Now tell me if I will again execute this. If I will again execute this statement, it will work, yes or no? If I again execute this statement, what will happen? It will work. Why it will work? Because there is no constraint in my columns. There is no constraint in my columns. Like there is no unique, there is no check, there is no primary key, there is no foreign key, there is nothing. So if I want to run it 5 times, 100 times, it will run 100 times as well. So this is the first way of inserting records in the table. This is my first way to insert records in table. So if you want to insert a second record with the same way, you have to copy the whole statement. You have to paste the whole statement. And then you have to change the value here. So in this way of inserting the records, you again and again have to drop the same record with the same statement. So right now I will drop a name Abhishek here. And I will give him an ID as 1002. And will give him an age as 26. And now I will. And for example, if you want to run both of the queries together, in MySQL Server, it will work. It will understand it as a two different queries. But in MySQL Workbench, it will not work like this. There you have to put a semicolon here. And many of the times in MySQL Workbench, it also works. But sometimes it gives you an error. So let's run this. So I have ran this again. So now this first row is duplicated third time and we have one additional row. So let's try to run the select star from students. So see, we have 3 times the same row of Durgesh Yadav and fourth row that we have inserted is Abhishek. So this is my way first of inserting records in table, where I write my table name and I give reference of my columns, and the order in which I have given the reference, I give the values in same order. So for example, if you have given a reference as name, subject, student ID, age, and you are changing the order while dropping the values, it will give you an error. So for example, if this is the order here, you have to pass the value in the same order here. Now let's talk about our second way of inserting the record. So if you are talking about second way of inserting records in a table, we will write insert into, and we'll write the student's table name. But now this time, we don't have to specify our columns with the table name. This time, we don't have to specify our column names with the table. We will directly write values here. Insert into student values. And after this, I will try to start writing my values. But now, even in this way, when you are not specifying your column names in the along with the table name, in this way, when you are not specifying your column names along with the table name, you have to drop the values in the same order of your create table statement. So in the create table statement, name comes first into the picture, then subject, then age, then student ID. Then you have to drop the values in the same order. So first your name comes into the picture. Then after that, your subject comes into the picture. So my subject is data engineering. Now the third thing that comes into the picture is age, and then the student ID. And that can be QWE 100. And let's run this. So it's showing you one row affected, which means this row is inserted inside your table. Now this way is little good. So now in the above picture, you have to again copy this, then again writing this. In this way, you just have to put a comma here, and then you have to pass your second record with the same order of create table statement. So I will write Pooja here. I will write analytics. Then I will write 29. Then I will write ID, which is QW233. Now, see, you are inserting two records at the same time. Now you are inserting two records at the same time. So let's drag and run it. Two rows affected. So in this way, you just have to put a comma, you have to fill a record, then again you have to put a comma and you have to fill a record. So this way of creating a table is a different way for inserting the record. Like this way of inserting records in the table is a different way. So you have seen two ways of inserting records in a table. First is this one, second is this one. No, now I will tell you limitations of second one. Limitations of second one. See, in second one, you have to put the values in the same order of create table statement. And second thing, in this way of inserting the records, you cannot leave any column empty. Like, which means that you cannot leave any column. So for example, if I have written insert into student values and I'm leaving the fourth column, I'm only putting 3 values, it will not work. So you have to fill all the values if you want to use this method of inserting the records. Is everyone clear till here? Any questions till now? And like, just tell me how many of you like actually know how to create a table. Like in this class I told you, but how many of you actually know how to create a table? Like before this class, like do you know that this concept of creating tables also? Because many of the people like directly jump on the queries. Okay, I will show you the table output. Select a star from students. This is the table output. Yeah, it will show an error, Pooja. If you don't write 28, if you will miss any value, it will give you error. In this way, you cannot miss any value. I try to teach you all with the most detailed format. The things that I'm telling you right now, you will not get them anywhere else because people are directly jumping on the query part and different part. Like in our way of teaching is like simple. We just have to go with deep basics. If we give constraint, like we can accept like expect null values. So yeah, Pooja, if you will write a null value here, for example, if you don't want to put any value and you want to put null here, then it will work for you. So you can give a null value. You can give a null, but you have to pass some value there. You can pass null as well, but you cannot leave it blank. You have to put something here. So if there are 4 columns in the table, you have to fill 4 values here in the same order of create table statement. Are there any limitations for the first method? See, for the first method, there is no limitation. For the first method, there is only one limitation, that if you are dropping values in this order, so if you are dropping columns in this order, you have to drop values also in this order. That is the only thing. So now let's try to create one more table. Let's try to create one more table with the help of constraints. Am I audible to you people? Am I audible? Okay. So let's create a new table. Create table and this time we'll try to create an employee table. Now in employee table, we will first name our employee ID. And I will make my employee ID as integer this time. I will make my employee ID as integer this time. And after this, what I will do is I will try to drop a constraint here. And my constraint will be primary key. So this is my exact definition of column. Column name, data type, and after that constraint. Now I'll put a comma here and I will come down. Now I will take my second column, which will be name, employee name. The data type of employee name will be varchar. And I will give it a constraint as unique. And I'll put a comma here. Now I will drop a value here, employee age. I will drop a data type here, int, and after that I will drop a constraint, check. And inside check constraint, I will drop employee age greater than 24. Now I'll put a comma here and I will go down. Now I will drop a column city with a varchar data type, and after that I will write default. And in default, I will write Bangalore. And we are missing one more constraint here, which is like we have, like it's up to you. It's not required to drop each and every column with a constraint. I'm just explaining you. That's why I'm trying to get all the constraints in a single table. So now what I will do is I will give this thing salary. So there is an employee salary column, and I will give the salary column in the float data type and will write here not null, which means I have to put something here. I cannot leave it empty. So now, how many of you think like we can add two constraints to a single column? So see, if you have written unique here, you can add not null also. You can here add check also. So for a single column, you can give as many constraints as you want. So for a single column, if you are giving unique constraint, you can give not null constraint as well. You can give check constraint as well. So it's up to you how many constraints you want to give. So in my example, I will only give unique, but you can give 2, 3, or 5. Like if you want to give 6 constraints, all 6 constraints, you can give that as well. But it will not work for you because foreign key is a different thing. And if you are giving unique and not null, which basically means primary key only, so try to give relevant constraints. So let's try to run this table. We have command completed successfully. Now we'll try to see our table. Select star from employee. And we'll try to run it. So this is our table structure. Employee ID, salary, employee name, employee age, and city. Now I'll try to drop some values here. So we'll use our second way of dropping the records. Insert into employees. And now I will ask questions from you people. Values. $101. 2,000. 1 lakh. Abhishek. Age is 21. And tell me, if I will run this record, this will run, yes or no? How many of you think it will not give me any error? Okay. Why I will get the error? Tell me. Why I will get the error? Now I'm opening mic of all you people, just you can see the things with your mouth as well. So tell me. So people are saying that age will give you an error. Okay. Age will give me an error. Any other error? See, this is the correct thing. Age will give me an error. You are correct. Any other error?
Missing city?
Missing city. Okay. I have used default in the city column. Then also it will give me an error.
Maybe.
100% it will give me an error because basics things are first. What I
Age.
told you, if you are inserting value like this, you have to fill all the values. That was my condition. Yes or no? So if that was my condition, I have to fill something here because that was my condition. If I'm inserting values like this, I have to insert values in this order and I have to fill all the values. So for example, if you are leaving city here, don't think that you will get Bangalore by default, because in this way of dropping the records, you cannot leave anything empty. See, float is not an issue. Float is not an issue. If you will write 0.0, then also it's fine. If you'll write it in integer, then also it's fine. But the issue was age, and the second issue was we are leaving this empty. Like we are not dropping city here. But we have to drop something here. If you will not drop anything here, you will not get a default city as Bangalore because you are violating the conditions of inserting table into table like this. In this way of inserting the records, you have to make sure that you are dropping all the values here. So let's try to make this as age 25 and let's try to run the query without actually dropping that. See, column name or number of supplied values does not match, which means there are 5 values in this order and you are dropping these 4 values only, which is demand and supply is not matching. So that's why you will get an error. So in this way, you have to drop a city here. So I will drop a city, Lucknow here. And I will try to run this record. Now, string or binary data may be truncated. Okay, so I have not given any value to the varchar. See, I have not given any value to the varchar. So right now, it is not take. I told you in Microsoft SQL Server, it will not take a default value. So you have to give a value here. Right now, Lucknow has 7 characters and you have taken varchar without a limit. So its limit is 0. So you cannot put a value of 1 character also. So you have to give some value here. So right now this table already exists. So we'll copy the complete statement. We'll copy the complete statement. And we'll try to create a table with a different name. We will give it a name as employee 1. Employee 1 and employee 1. Let's again make this table. So execute, and now we'll try to run the record. Now it's showing you 1 row affected, which means this row is inserted inside the table. Now, for
What
example,
does it mean? Sorry, Durgesh, I just wanted to ask one thing. What does it mean default Bangalore then?
I will tell you, just give me some time. I will tell you
Okay.
the next step.
Okay, all right.
Okay. This topic is not completed yet. Okay, so the second thing is now, for example, if I'm again running the same record, will it work? If I'm again running the same record, Jadi,
Yes.
how you can say it will work?
No, it will not work.
See, employee ID is the primary key. You know the primary key conditions. You cannot duplicate the primary key. Employee name is unique. You cannot duplicate the employee name. So it will give you an error because there are constraints applied. Okay. Now you have asked like about what is the need of default. So if you want to use the functionality of default, you have to go to step 1 of inserting. Insert into employee 1 values. And for example, I only want to insert my 4 values. Employee ID, I only want to insert my 4 values, like my employee ID, my employee name and my employee age, comma, my salary. And I don't want to insert city here. I want to leave my city. And I will put values here and I will drop only the 4 values that I have given here. So I will drop employee ID as 102 and I will drop employee name as Abhi Singh. I will drop my employee age as 29 and will drop its salary as 2 lakh. Now, if I will run it, will it give me an error? Tell me. This will give me an error or not?
No.
No. And what will be the default city?
Bangalore.
Bangalore.
So I think you got to know how you have to put your default value. I hope these are the new things that you are learning today.
Yes.
So now we are completed with 5 constraints. Our 5 constraints are completed. Now we will talk about the last one, which is foreign key. So now what I will do is, let's assume this is my base table. Like, let's assume this is my primary table, like my parent table. Now I will try to make my child table, which will reference my parent table. So let's make a second table here, the child table. This is my parent table and I'm going to make a child table, which is department table. So create table department. And inside the department table, I will drop my department ID with int and give it a primary key constraint. After that, I will drop my department name varchar 20. After that, I will drop my EMP identity. Let's give it a name as employee ID here. Employee ID. I will write employee ID here. And I will give this employee ID a name. I will give this employee ID a int data type. And now I will come down and I will write foreign key. Foreign key. Inside foreign key, I am going to make my employee ID my foreign key. Employee ID that I have taken here. Employee ID. And I will write references. And to whom it will reference? It will reference employee ID of employee 1, like employee ID of parent table. So it will reference parent table employee 1 employee ID. And let's run this. Command completed successfully. Now this is your child table. Parent table, child table. In the child table, the employee ID that you are using in child table is directly referencing to employee ID of the parent table. Now, for example, let's check what are the employee IDs in the parent table. Select a star from employee 1. So there are two employee IDs, 101 and 102 in the parent table. Now I want to insert a record, insert into department table, and I will write values, and I want to drop values department ID as 101, sorry, a department ID as 201, department name as data analytics, and employee ID, which is my foreign key basically, as 106. Tell me, it will work, yes or no? It will work, yes or no? It will not work because you have made this employee ID as a foreign key and it's referencing to employee ID of parent table, and parent table don't have this 106. Parent table only has 101 and 102. So you cannot drop 106, because if you will drop 106, you are destroying the relationship of parent and child. So that's why foreign key is a key that prevents action that destroys relationship between two tables. Simple. So that's all for the class today. From tomorrow, we'll go for solving queries. That is all about basics before actually writing a SQL query with different things. That's all. Thanks all of you for joining.